Hey, Patrick?
Red light's flashing.
Right, that's all you want. Alright?
Want that door over?
Yes.
No, oh, the lady coming through.
Yeah.
No, it's no problem. No problem.
That's better because you get too much glare at the back.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to have another 2 hours. No, I'm only going to be about half an hour now, just to give you a few short stories, alright? I'd like to say tonight, thank you all very much. We've raised, well, £400 that we know of, over £400 tonight for this group. So I'd like to thank everybody that contributed. Thank you very much. Now, this one's called the Starched Amazon. Oh, heck, man, I can hardly tell you now for grizzling. 'Twas for 8 this morning, see? And I heard this noise below, like, well, I thought 'twas my ma or one of my grandchildren. No, I wasn't expecting no one. And then I heard the strangest sound, like a linnet 'twas, all shrill and high. Mr. Tonkin, are you awake, dear? It's Nurse Tiddy. I'm here for Nurse Barnacle. She's at a fall, poor soul. Well, I come straight up, and then I hear these get feet stanking up the stairs, heavy like a infantryman. Thought she'd going for the planching any time. Well, when the door opened, 'twas like a vision, a starched Amazon. And then, without no invitation, she starts bustling. I'll just straighten your covers and draw the curtains, Mr. Duncan. Fresh air to aid the circulation. Am I right, Mr. Duncan? And she turns and looks over her glasses at me. I must have looked like a cornered ferret, hair like a furze bush. Oh, it makes me ache near to think of 'em. And then she reaches into this bag, takes out some books, and starts reading. Thomas, Arthur John Samuel, bed bath, twice weekly. You don't mind if I call you Arthur, do you, Mr. Duncan? Well, I was struck dumb, as you can imagine. And I think she took that as a no, because she carries on with Mr. Duncan this, Mr. Duncan that, and where does it hurt, Mr. Duncan? And tell me if you're uncomfortable, Mr. Duncan. Then as quick as you like, she's on me, pulling back the bedclothes, and dragging off my nightshirt. Well, I can't pretend I didn't need a bath, you know me. And for a second, I did feel a touch of embarrassment. But then she started soaping up and I forgot all about him. Now, she wasn't no ever gardener or nothing, but hell, I ain't starting to get particular at my time of life. So I just lay back and took him. Imagine it, man. 1 minute you're sleeping like a babby, and the next an angel in an apron is smothering her hands all over you. I aren't religious, as you well know, so I know I wasn't in heaven, and I thank God for that, outside of missing. Well, she was prodding and pummeling and stroking me from my toes to my nose, and all the while paying me little compliments, all concerned like about my welfare. Arthritis is a terrible cross to bear, Mr. Duncan, and you must miss Miss Duncan terribly. Then with a final sluice down and a flanneling behind the ears, she was gone as quick as she came. Well, I lay there a minute, contemplating my good fortune, and wondering what other delights the day had to offer, when it all of a sudden struck me that during all that time, all that care and coddling, sloshing and washing, I hadn't uttered a single word to that dear woman. Well, I can tell you, I was up there out of that bed quicker than you could say knife, and over to the window. Nurse, I cried, nurse, wait! Here, nurse, I'm calling after, trying to keep from cracking up. I just wanted to say thank you. She did look a bit taken aback. Oh, that's quite all right, Mr. Duncan. All part of the service, you know, says she. Then she's off again. Oh, there's just one thing I'm calling after. Yes, says he. What is it, Mr. Duncan? Well, you see, I aren't Mr. Duncan. He's the miserable old bugger who lives next door. This one's called Relations. Father was at the table checking his football pools, all the homes and the ways and following the rules. Young Herbie came in through the door, all smiling and excited. Hello, says Da. What's up with you? You're looking some delighted. Oh, congratulate me, Da, said Herb, for I have found a love. Well, that is handsome news, says Da. Who is he thinking of? His son just pulled his ear and blushed, his voice all soft and gooey. I've asked for Fanny Jenkin. She to live over Truey. His father's face was stony. My answer must be no. You see, my son, it cannot be. I cannot allow it so. Why ever not? Young Herbie said. She's a handsome maid. Oh, tell me, Dad, what's wrong with her? But father shook his head. It's difficult to tell you, boy. Me and your father like. But when I was young and I had this here bike, I used to go out now and then to take a little ride, and once or twice I found myself over Truey side. And that is why I must explain my visits over Truey. She's sort of a relation, see, quite like a sister to me. The boy accepted sadly this awkward fact of life, and soon he met another maid he felt would make his wife. He told his father proudly he fancied Liz Trethewey, and found she must be cast aside, another sister to he. The months went by and Herbie strayed, only to face more ruin. For Francis' sisters over Brieg, it was like her sister to him. Well, in despair, young Herbie sat, his head upon the table. He tried to joke a bit with Ma, but felt he was unable. "What's matter, boy?" his mother said. "You're sickening, I don't wonder. You're tithing like an adder, boy, and your face is black as thunder." "Oh, I can't stand it, Ma," he cried. "My heart is gone on strike. And all because of father, he and his bloomin' bike. For every maid I look upon, be it Mousel or Trelister, my father had been there on his bike, and she's bloomin' near my sister." But Ma was stiff with laughing. She hooted like a good un. "So, that's what 'tis upset you. Don't you worry, my old puddin', for you can wed the maid over Brieg and the one over Truey, and don't you worry over Da. He's no relation to he." I do like this one, you just have to bear with me. This one's called Shiny Balls. Christmas was coming, Mother baked the cake. Mixing ingredients up took bloomin' hours to make. The fruit had plumbed up handsome, no dipping in the middle. Now was the time to decorate, which Mother thought of fiddle. She rolled the marzipan around and icing all on top. "Did he get the shiny balls?" says Dad. "No, sold out up the shop. But I got a Father Christmas and a little snowman too. I'll wrap a pretty ribbon round and that will have to do." But Father was insistent. "We got holly on the walls, but we can't have a Christmas cake without the shiny balls. And we got all the family coming for the whole of Christmas Day. No shiny balls upon the cake. We must get some today." Ma wiped her eyes in her pinny. The tears were streaming down. "Oh, you do something, Feather. Take the car and try in town." So Dad went up Bill's garage. He had to fill the tank. "Oh," says Bill, "you're looking muggy. Have someone robbed your bank?" "No, it's the wife," says Feather. "She's home there in some tear. No shiny balls upon the cake. Can't get none anywhere." "I tell you what," says Bill, from the desk where he was sat. "I got these small ball bearings. Can he substitute with that?" "Oh, he's worth a try," says Feather, and he took them in his hand. Ma washed and placed them on the cake. "My gar, that's looking grand." The children, they were watching at all that occurred. "Now, kids, this is our secret. Don't say a bloomin' word." On Christmas Day, the family came. They all arrived by noon. Mother had prepared a goose. They'd all be eaten soon. And later, all were snoring while Mother laid out tea, mince pies, the saffron cake and splits, the cake for all to see. They listened on the radio, the speech made by the Queen. "Oh, she did a proper job," they said. It was a happy scene. No mishap came at tea time. The trifle disappeared, and several slices of the cake. The moment Father feared. They sat there in their paper hats, and firelights on the walls, and Father thinking of the fuss about the shiny balls. For he was grinning quietly while many yarns were swapped, how they survived disaster, for they were nearly copped. And Ma was chatting quite relaxed, and sitting quite unwary, till Grandma bent to poke the fire and shot the poor canary. This one's called The Quilt. It was a wild and stormy night upon that Cornish moor, and at that lonely wayside house a knock came to the door. Says Mother on her way to bed, "Whoever can that be? Now pull your coat, Dad, to your neck, you better go and see." A strange young man was huddled there. "I'm afraid I've lost my way. It's really getting rather late. Have you somewhere I can stay?" "Oh, this house is small. We have no room." Poor Father shook his head. "Our daughter's in the other room. We don't have another bed." "He can sleep upon the parlour floor," called Mother down the stair. along the harmonium with a cushion off the chair. How wonderful, the young man said, and a sob caught in his throat. To get away from all that storm, I can wrap up in my coat. Installed upon the parlour rug, a cushion neath his head. Says Dad, that's all that we can do. God bless, the young man said. The hours ticked by and still the gale blew on into the night. But upstairs Mother tossed and turned. She didn't think it right. That young man must be shrim with cold upon the parlour floor. We haven't had a fire in there for at least a month or more. And isn't there a blanket? We can't have it. We haven't got a spare. Not even one in Ida's room. It's no use looking there. Go down and see him, Dad, she said. My dear, I'm worried sick. And Father pulled on his boots once more. I'll be down there in a tick. Matt turned to Dad, such pleading eyes. In fact, his heart did melt. I tell you what, my flower, he said. I'll offer him our quilt. A proper job, my cock, says Ma. Put a coat across our bed. Dad gathered up the eider down and full the stairs did head. Are you down there still, my son? Dad down the stairs did call. And did he want our eider down to warm me up at all? The young man stood, his body limp, exhausted and unsteady. No, I don't want your eider down. She's been down 4 times already. This one's called the sat-nav. This isn't. I have a little sat-nav. It sits in my car. A sat-nav is a driver's friend. It tells you where you are. I do have a little sat-nav. I've had it all my life. It's better than the normal ones. My sat-nav is my wife. It gives me full instructions, especially how to drive. It's 30 miles an hour, it says. You're doing 35. It tells me when to stop and start and when to use the brake. It tells me when it's never ever safe to overtake. It tells me when a light is red and when it goes to green. It seems to know instinctively just when to intervene. It lists the vehicles just in front and all those to the rear. And taking this into account, it specifies my gear. I'm sure no other driver has so helpful a device. For when we leave and lock the car, it still gives its advice. It fills me up with counselling. Each journey's pretty fraught. So why don't I exchange it and get a quieter sort? Well, you see, it cleans the house, makes sure I'm properly fed. It washes all my shirts and things and keeps me warm in bed. Despite all these advantages and my tendency to scoff, I only wish that now and then I could turn the gadget off. Oh, 'tis wren and cats and dogs, said Richard Henry, who had just come in from school. Can't go out night, tell us a yarn feather. Know any good ones, do we? Father said, did I ever tell you about Boy Willie Waistcoat? 'Tis true, and if it didn't, he ought be. How do we call that feather? Asked Richard. Because he said he'd wear his waistcoat in bed to keep his feet warm. Well, Willie used one of either a cutthroat razors and was shaving. When the cat jumped up on the table and scat over the jug of milk, this frightened him, and turned round quickly, still holding a razor in his hand, cut off the tip of his nose. When he seen what he'd done, he left the razor pole out of his hand, and having no boots on, it fell on his foot and cut off a piece of his big toe. By this time he was hollering for help. I've killed myself, I killed myself. I know I have. And in the incitement, he struck that piece of his toe on his nose, and the tip of his nose on his toe. Now, strange to say, they both stuck. And to look at, and you wouldn't know it ever happened. But there was one snag. Well, what was that? Asked Richard Henry. Well, every time he wanted to wipe his nose, he had to take his boots off. Expectant father rang the Trellis maternity unit to see how his wife, who had gone into labour, was getting on. By mistake, he was connected to the county cricket ground. How's it going? He asked. Oh, fine, came the answer. We got 3 out and hoped to have the rest out before lunch. The last one was a duck. A farmer near St. Just saw a stranger drinking from his stream. He shouts, what's on, you don't want to be drinking that. It's full of horse pee and cow doings. Oh, hi there, says the stranger. I'm your new neighbour from London. I just bought a cute little cottage in the village, and I'm not used to the way you chaps speak. So could you say that again, please? A bit slower. The farmer replies, if you use 2 hands, you won't spill any. Let's have another one here. I'm going to wait for a few more minutes, yes? This one's called The Cabbage. Mrs. Stone prepared the meal. Oh, I haven't got no beans. And dinner ain't nothing if you haven't got no greens. She called to William Henry. Go down the garden, Willie. I need a cabbage, dear, she said. Ain't got enough to filly. With knife in hand, Bill Henry sped out through the kitchen door, and from that moment Mrs. Stone seen her man alive no more. 5 minutes passed, she fussed about. Why, where's he gone to now? He just had to go and cut a cabbage. Don't take this long, I vow. 5 minutes more and she was off. And there, look what she found. Her man beside the cabbages lay dead upon the ground. Up chapel at the funeral, they tended to her needs and never paused to speak to her there in her widow's weeds. Poor Mrs. Stone, what did he do in such awful times as these? Well, what could I do? She wiped her eyes. I opened a tin of peas. Now Sammy had a donkey. He wasn't very bright. If he tried to turn in leftwards, he would veer off to the right. Sometimes he would gallop and sometimes he would crawl, and he'd sometimes dig his heels in. He wouldn't go at all. His eyes was different colours and he only had one ear. He was knock-kneed in his front legs and bandy in the rear. His teeth was broken, busted from chewing on a slet, and his tail was short and stumpy where he pinching in the get. One day I says to Sammy, how is it, my old dear, that you bought that bloomin' donkey and you kept him all these years? I'll tell you how it is, he said, and pointed to his wife. We'd a reckon that there animal has saved our married life. 'Cause I'm nothing much to look at when all is said and done. My face was slapped together when the Lord was having fun. And my beloved missus, she went never tell a lie, so I wouldn't pay her compliments for fear of her reply. But since I got that donkey, 'tis like Christmas every day. I'd a tell her how she's pretty, and she'd a look at me and say, dear Sam, I'll give 'ee kisses and I'll sit upon your lap, 'cause compared to that there donkey, you're a handsome looking chap. This one's called Cold Comfort. Oh, it's getting colder, Jan remarked. I can feel it in my bones. My feet are always first to tell. They're like the piper stones. Poor Ada gets the worst of it, 'cause when we goes to bed, she'd a mutter about the concrete blocks. I'd a push her against her leg. I tried all sorts down through the years, from things that I'd been told. You can get these here fancy thermals, but they're dearer boy than gold. And Willie John said, do like me when the chill of winter bites. The best thing of the lot, my son, it's a pair of woman's tights. So I went and asked my Ada. Of course, she had to make me squirm. Well, Jan Travascus, she replied, I believe you're on the turn. You better take your fancy from the airing cupboard shelf, but if you want them black and sexy, you can buy them for yourself. Next morning, pulling turnips, and the wind was like a knife. But my legs and feet were cosy, thanks to my beloved wife. Oh, you're chirpy, Jan, said Henry. How's your darling Ada May? Oh, she's fine, I said, and feeling extra close to me today. Perhaps Henry's horse was listening. He decided to be cute and bolted with the turnip cart and me in hot pursuit. Well, as he done a racing turn, I heard the tailgate crack and 50,000 turnips come flying out the back. Oh, my foot, oh, my leg, I was in some sorry step. The boys run round and hiked me up, but I couldn't take my weight. Each time I tried to stand up straight, the pain was getting worse. So we hobbled off down the road long, see the district nurse. The next thing I remember, I was on this big settee. Nurse Florence Penalula was there fiddling with my knee. I better take a look, she said, with grinning through her teeth. And then I suddenly recalled what I was wearing underneath. As I lashed around and struggled, she said, come on, don't be shy. And she whipped away me trousers in the blinking of an eye. Then silence while I waited for a giggle or a scream, but Florence Penalula wasn't nowhere to be seen. Then her voice off in the corner said, I'm writing up my notes in case of complications and the need for antidotes. Though I feel this diagnosis should be written up in lights. Minor bruising round your ankles and a ladder in your tights. You know, this is a bit earlier now. It was a quiet night in hell, and a man and his wife was fast asleep, when there was an unexpected knock on the door. The man looked at the alarm clock. It was 3:30 in the morning. I'm not getting out of bed at this time, he thought. There was another louder knock. Aren't you going to answer that? Asked his wife. So the man dragged himself out of bed and went downstairs. He opened the door to find a strange man standing outside. It didn't take him long for the homeowner to realise the man was totally drunk. All right, my handsome, slurred the stranger. Can you give me a push? No, I can't. It's 3:30 in the morning. And I was in bed, said the homeowner as he slammed the front door. He went back to bed and told his wife what happened. Oh, that wasn't very nice of you, she said. Remember that night we broke down in the pouring rain on the way to pick up the kids from the babysitter? And you had to knock on that man's door to get us starting again. What would have happened if he told us to get lost? But that man who just knocked on our door was as drunk as a pariner, replied the husband. Well, can we at least help him move his car somewhere safe and sort him out a taxi, says his wife. So the husband got out of bed again, got dressed and went downstairs. He opened the door, but he couldn't see the stranger anywhere. So he shouted, Hey there, do we still want to push? He heard a voice call over to him, Yes, please. So still unable to see, he shouted, Where are you? I'm over here, my handsome, the stranger replied. On your swing. Shall I do another couple, yeah? Because I know it's getting late. I know you people go and sleep not too much. This one's called a washing machine. Oh, we had some confluxion here since I last seen it. I put the washing machine on and let him go. When I went in the kitchen a bit later on, he was swimming in water. What on the earth now's that near, I says. Jack, come as here, man, have a look at this bit. Jack come hobbling out, newspaper still in his hand. What's all this water, he said. This is a rare caution, isn't it? I'll ring for the man. A calm and unflappable Cornishman is my Jack. Can't say the same for me. I was in some tear and thought we was never going to stop mopping up all that there water. You know what it's like, don't he? If you'd upset a cup of tea, it'd seem as though you've upset a churnful, doesn't it? Anyhow, we done it in the end, and then we had to go down laundrette with all the old towels and stuff we'd use, because if we streamed them home through, I wouldn't have been able to spin them, see? And there was no drought in the weather yet, is it? And them when they was too, grafted. We've been having some trouble with the old machine for a bit of while. Mind you, we've had him for donkey's years, and tell you the truth, we thought he'd gone round land for now, really. Anyhow, next day when the man come and had a look at him, and before he tutted or opened his mouth, I know exactly what was going to say. Don't bother, I said. How much is it going to cost? You've been one thing after another lately. Piped up Jack, perhaps we ought to think of having another one. Now, Jack, don't say things like that lightly. And when he do, you better stand back. My gracious, for I know where I was. There we was in ETS, surrounded by washing machines. The little chap, I forget his name, Mr. Lawrence is a call. Anyhow, he come forth and started talking about all the different models. Seems as though some to spin faster than others, some you can set to wash with less water and some are supposed to wash just as clean at lower temperatures. Believe it, do he? And some to work by computer, but I didn't want one of they. I should know where I was to. I'm quite at home with an on-off switch, thank you very much, but give me anything too complicated and I wouldn't know where to start. You sound easy when they're telling you in the shop, but it's another thing when you're getting home, isn't it? Anyhow, we ummed and ahed, and eventually we chose one that will do all we need, and he was available in all the colours as long as we had a white one. I'll leave that one there now. Oh, this is all right. This wasn't. Going to church. Mother and father were sitting in the kitchen to the kitchen table. They were waiting for boy Richard Henry to come down from bed. I don't believe that boy is well. I heard him moving about in the night. Besides, he'd been cold twice. Tin like he told, said father. You know what happened yesterday when I took him up chapel, says mother. We only got to the first hymn when he said he was feeling sick. I told him to run out long, and if he's feeling better, come in again. And if he was worse, go on home. Well, we didn't finish that hymn before he was beside me again. Hell, I said, you made S. Yes, said he. I found a box in the chapel porch marked for the sick. I aren't feeling too good myself, said mother. I walked too far, I did, last night. I went up Trancrom and wasn't I thirsty. I stopped and asked a woman what to keep a little small on then, for a cup of drink. Will you have a drop of milk, she says. Oh, yes, said I. Thank you very much. So she poured out some milk in a small bowl. I thought 'twas some funny drink from a small bowl when I was chagging. After a while, a little pig come up and started rubbing up against my legs. Dear little thing he was. I said, do you think that little pig to know me? I've been up here heaps of times. Don't know about that, replied the woman, but he do know that's his bowl. Well, should we say that's it now? Is that all right? Because I think we...